Now that we've gone over a little bit of the slate and things to think about when you're slating, let's look at what the information is we need on the camera report. Because the slate is that visual reference of what the scene take and shot number was, whatever you feel is important to have recorded visually on the frame for post-production. But now we're going to fill out the camera report because this is just as important as the slate, because this is the rest of the visual information. Now, I mean visual in the terms of if the editor has the clip and has this material in post-production, things can flow right along because everything can be balanced out for. The editor will know how you shot certain things. Was there a filter? Everything that was going on. So using this camera report, you would be using it in post-production. This would be your reminder of everything that went on for the production, as well as if you needed to do any reshoots. You can go back and almost duplicate what it was that you were filming. This is a common form in the industry, and you are going to see different variations on this form. Some go to camera labs depending on the production, some go directly to post-production. We are giving you basically a camera report that could be used for the post-production process. Okay, so let's go into the basics of filling it out and why we're doing certain things. Okay, so first of all, very basic. We need to make sure you have the title. The reason for this is the fact that all paperwork is going to be separated out. So a title is quite obvious on here. So I'm going to just put in camera report. Okay, and you tab through on here. This is where I usually put the picture profile. Now, I also could put it on the slate. I've shown a couple different things I like to on notes, but this is definitely a good, solid reference as to what the picture profile is that I'm using. Tabbing through my name, tabbing through the media. Now, this is the media card. I put this on here because you can do per scene camera reports. In other words, you can have a complete camera report for scene 1 and then start a new camera report all over again for scene 2. For this one, I'm going to be doing the media card SDB because that is the slot that I always use when it comes to the cameras. Other is depending on what you have other on here. And of course the date. This will be obvious when I did this. So all right, so this is on Pages and it's been preset for you to be able to use this to where it has the font in Courier New 12 point. This is something to go ahead and stay with because it's a nice camera, nice script type font. It's the exact same type of font you would use in Final Draft. It's very clear and legible. So, all right, so we have the items that we're used to seeing in the slate, and we've seen before on all of the material you've done previously. So of course we're going to have scene number, shot number, take number, focal length. Now, the focal length on here has a Z reference. One of the things that you've been encouraged on is to get used to the idea of translating Z numbers to millimeters. And this is a great thing to understand. And I would actually be practicing it and kind of get used to the idea. But one thing you got to be aware of is in the age of digital, sometimes it is the different company that makes the camera is what happens with how you're measuring things with lenses, with ISO. Is it a shutter speed versus a shutter angle? All of these different things that you're going with. And our best belief is the fact that you should be doing the report to the camera you're working with or to the film you're working with or to whatever you're working with. So the camera you're working with measures in Z numbers. So in order to make sure you can do a reshoot, you want to have that Z number in there so you can take a look at it. Now, again, millimeters is good to learn, but the reason why we talk about the camera and we talk about the change up is because it all depends on the capture size of the opening, of the aperture. Not just the iris, but the aperture itself. Different aperture sizes will make the lens give a different appearance at the same millimeters. Case in point, this is the equivalent for a 35 millimeter camera is what we're using right now, the equivalent aperture. So a 50 millimeter lens would look about normal for the human eye. However, if you get smaller in aperture, like let's go back and let's say 16 millimeter for film, A 25 millimeter lens is what actually looks like the normal human eye. So it really is going to depend on what you're working with. Okay, so you're going to do Z numbers because you would be using your camera to do the reshoots. Okay, focus distance. One important thing to think about on that one. This is helping you out with your distance. Now, you do have the highlighting that can help you show if you are in focus, and the red kind of ant lines that show you if you're in focus and show you what's the depth of field, that kind of thing. You can use that. But if you're, again, the camera port is for being able to reset up. Now, I've been saying reshoots, but let me just give you an example. You've come in and you've been able to do your material with one actor, you did a lot of stuff, but then you move to the next actor and you're only able to get off like maybe a medium shot, and then that was the end of the day. So you've got to come back the next day. You want to set up exactly how you had this before. So you would be making all of these markings on here. And one of the most important things that you want to be referencing for is the distance from the camera, because it's going to change a lot of things. So you want to make sure the focal distance. So when you are setting focus, make sure you've got a note, make sure you've got something you write down or look at it, because this is the one failing that is against this camera, is the fact that when you focus, you get the distance and then it goes away like within 3 seconds. So be aware of that. You want to do the focus. F-stop, very important. This helps you out with being able to know the aperture you were at. The ISO, of course, this is also important for being able to reset up. Frames per second, very important on knowing the look. The frames per second is going to change the look on here. Shutter speed, color temperature, all of these are self-explanatory. Filters is very important because in editing, the editor needs to know what was baked in, what was already put in front of the lens that they may be trying to correct for. Because if they know that there was an ND filter on it, if they know there was a blue filter, green filter, a half mist, that kind of stuff, they can actually be able to adjust for what's on there when they're editing. The shot description. The shot description really is kind of that, it's almost like a report of what happened with the shot. It's comments on the shot itself. It's not describing it like an OTS or that kind of thing. So let me give you an example on how you might fill this in. So of course, off the slate, you're getting the scene number. So this is scene 1. And then off the slate, you're getting the shot number. So we're doing alphanumeric, 1, alpha. You could do alpha, you could do beta, Charlie, delta, gamma, whatever you want to do for different material. As long as when you talk about it, you say it out loud. Okay, so 1, apple. All right, take number. Take number is take number 1. Now, all those numbers are going to change as you go through. But for the first setup, the first shot, the odds are that you're going to be changing the focal length and the focal distance. But for most of the show, you're going to be keeping, probably for the scene, you're going to want to keep the same things for your f-stop ISO frames per second, because you want to maintain the same look. You want to make sure that you have the same material there. So very easily, you can right now take off from the camera. All the information you need is on your viewfinder. I'm looking at a client monitor right here, and everything on the display I can take right now and be able to fill in the camera report. My f-stop currently is at f7.1. My ISO is 1250. My frames per second is 24p. My shutter speed is set right now with the camera I'm using is 180 degrees. My color temperature that I white balanced to 4200. Filters, I'm putting down that I am not using any filters. Now, the shot description, I'm not putting that in yet, but we know we're going to have a couple different shots. We're going to have a couple different things within the scene. So here's what you can do as you go along on this material. Okay, you're going to have your scene, your shot number. So let's say now we want to take the focal length. All right, so it's Z35. So I'm just going to put down Z as just a reminder. I'm using Z numbers and 35. My focus distance was about 4.5 because that was the distance on it. I'm going to put down it was feet on here. So basically, the camera report's filled out for the first scene. I mean, the first shot. Okay, so I have all of my material here. I've got it set up. Now, I'm going to be filling this in as I go along. And I don't know how many takes I'm going to have of each shot, but am I going to have to fill in everything along the way? No, I'm not going to have to. So let's say we shot scene 1 alpha and we had the first take and actor messed up lines and then broke up other actors. Okay, now you'll notice this moving down a little bit on here. It probably will actually, when I'm done with this, I'll probably make it to where it centers as you're going along. Okay, it's up to you if you want to put that much description. You can also put up actor messed up lines or actor broke up scene. Up to you. Okay, so let's go to the next thing. So we need to take definitely take another take. Okay, so we filled all that in. Now, here's a nice little cheat that you can do for a camera report. It's kind of the scenario that it's known what you're going to be having here. We're in scene 1 and we're in shot 1A. So you can continue through, and on take 2, you can just do the take. Okay? So take 2. Now, what you can do on the rest of this, since it's all identical, I would say you could just go along in here and just do a copy and a paste. There's my information for take 2. So now I have take 2 and I'm going to have a good take. And let's just say good take, okay? So we could do that, or we could do basically what's known as a safety. So let's do a third take. Let's do a third take. Now, again, let's go ahead and grab all this stuff, copy, paste, and let's just put in here safety. Now, this is all we need. Now, when we move on to the next one, the next shot, we're still going to use scene 1, but now it's 1 Baker. Remember, you are doing this in shooting order, in numerical order. So it will be 1 Apple, 1 Baker, 1 Charlie. You won't be jumping around. So let's go with our take 1. And now since we're moving the shot, we know the Z number is going to, we know all these, the Z number is going to change. So let's go with, we're going in on a close-up. So let's go with Z, let's go with Z60, because that usually works out on some stuff. And now that we're in a little bit of a close-up on here, maybe we've moved the camera back a little bit. So let's say our focal distance length maybe has gone to, 7 feet. The rest of it, though, we're still under the same lighting conditions, basically. We've done a measurement. We've taken a look at stuff. So technically, we're still running at 1250, 24p, 180-degree shutter, 4200-degree filter. So let's just go ahead and let's just copy. I'm showing you the different method. And paste. Great. They're all in there right now. Filter. Let's go NA again on here. And we're ready to go. And we do the first take and we go great take. Okay. So let's do a safety again. So again, coming in here, we don't need to worry about 1 and 1B. This is take 2. Since none of this should have changed, we go in, we can copy, paste, and we can say safety, but actors missed mark. Okay, so now the question is, do you want to do a third take because the actors missed the mark and this was supposed to be the safety? This one's completely up to you on here. So what you need to do is you'll need to decide what you want to do on here. So let's go to 1 Charlie. Again, just as a reminder, we know that there are certain things that are not changing. So let's go ahead and let's copy and paste. Let's do that there. And let's go ahead and let's mark in that we're going to be doing take number one. Now we're going to take the information from the camera. So now that we've adjusted, we're on, let's say we went for an extreme close-up. We went for the eyes. So Z99, the furthest you can move in. And we just decided to zoom in on this. The actor is still 7 feet away, so 7 feet. Okay, there we go. We're ready to go. And in fact, if we want to, we can even mark on this one, extreme eye squint. Don't know why I capitalized everything on there. Okay, so now you see, this is the beginning of a camera report. Okay, so that's in there. One Charlie. So we have one apple, which was 3 takes, one banana, which was 2 takes, and one Charlie, which was 2 takes. And the second take was actor sneezed. Okay, that's how to fill out the camera report. Everything you have here is exactly how you would do this on the computer, or if you were actually using your iPad to do this. Okay, so as promised, here is the iPad. Now, one important thing to note, iPad does have a file system that you can put things into, and it does have the cloud, it does have my iPad, there are folders that you can have on here, and you could actually bring the camera report into the Pages folder on my iPad. I like to use the iCloud drive just because it helps me synchronize back and forth between things. So in the iCloud drive, well, let's actually take a look at this in Pages here. So let me close down that, and let's open Pages. Okay, in Documents, Pages will have your recent documents. Now, I do rename my camera reports from the beginning because of the fact that when you actually synchronize in Pages, it needs a new name if you're going to do a save as and do any changes. So I have the original camera report here, but in Documents, because of what I filled out example. Okay, so now you do fill in the sheet almost identical to what you would be doing with the desktop, but one of the things to note is, of course, since you don't have a mouse or anything and you might have to use this, I have a Bluetooth keyboard, but you might have to use the pop-up keyboard to type everything in. But you'll see we got the start, it's highlighted. So let's say we're outside now for scene 2. So it's going to be scene 2. We're going to tab in, and since it's now scene 2 for all of this, the shot becomes 2 apples. So again, the shot number, the number is taken from the scene, and the letter is taken from the order of the shoot. Okay, so of course, take 1. Let's start with a wide shot, so let's go with Z15. Okay. Since we're on a wide shot, let's say we're actually focused at about 20 feet. And we're outside, let's say, because I've decided I'm going to stay with, for consistency, the ISO, the frames per second, and everything. So I've got to actually stop down a little bit. So I'm going to basically make sure that we're going to have, let's say about a 16. Okay, so now I'm going to stay with these for consistency, but I know the color temperature is going to change. Now, what's different with the app versus the desktop is you'll notice that it's a solid blue box around it because I'm doing entry on here. You must have to tell Pages that you're done doing entries. So you actually have to click away from the tablet itself, on the table itself, and then come back in. Okay, so now you'll see I've got the blue dots on here. Now I can hit the blue dots, hit copy, come down, hit paste, boom, I got my additional stuff in here. Now let's put in 5200 for outside, and not going to have the filter. Okay, and so ready to go. So we've gone ahead, we've rolled this shot. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do, I'm just putting this down just for reference, exterior, great take. Okay, tabbing through, I can go back down, I can enter new material. Now again, you'll notice it's the solid box, so I do have to tap off of here, tap onto the tablet basically, and then it'll let me come back in here. Since all this is the same now, I can go ahead and do copy, tap it, paste. I've got my duplicate material. So we're still on here. So now this is take 2. I'm still focused on here. So again, tap off, tap back in, copy, paste. The f-stop even is the same. Could have copied that. So, and no filter. All right, so anyway, as you see, it's just thinking about it a little bit differently as you go along. So that really, since I've gone over all the camera report stuff, that really is the majority of what you need to do for the camera report. When you hit Documents, it will take it back in and it will have autosave for you so that you can open it back up, and there's your camera report. And so this brings it to the end of the camera report. If you have any questions, please contact your section instructor.